Welcome back to Money 911, where we explore the powerful intersections of health, wealth, and peace of mind. Today, we're honored to have Robert Macphee with us, a pioneer in value-based leadership, the author of the transformative book, Living a Value-Based Life. Robert's journey from his time with the iconic Jack Canfield to creating the excellent Decisions program has equipped him with profound insights into how aligning our vision and values can lead to extraordinary success in both personal and professional lives. In this episode, we'll dive deep in the essence of value clarity and how it can serve as a catalyst for productivity, fulfillment, and meaningful impact. Get ready to unlock the secrets of living a values-based life. All right, Robert, we're just going to get right into it here because it's nice to see you too. Nice to see your smile and have you here.
Yeah, we're at least new friends, but we're still trying to figure out if we met previously. We both have that sense that we did, but
I think so.
good
It's
to
like
see you.
or you see someone that you feel like you've known forever, so you're just comfortable. So
Yeah.
it's a
Well,
good
and we landed in a breakout room when we first reconnected and
right.
had a really powerful moment. So that meant a lot. So
That you caught
yeah,
me.
you never know what's going to happen in a breakout room, right?
That's right. That's right. Good seeds are planted.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned that like people really struggle to articulate highest value. And this values blindness is the impact on our financial decisions and over life satisfaction and the way that the world is changing on different views. What do you think about that? What has that blindness become permanent in the world that we're in now?
I don't necessarily think it's permanent. And one of the things I'm most excited about doing this values work right now and really honing what had been a more general approach really into this area of values clarification is the breakthroughs that happen to people, the way that people respond and really kind of snap out of that kind of trance that we've gotten into, living in a world where all these external influences, we have media and social media and advertising and friends and family and bosses and coworkers just bombarding us constantly with what they want us to do and what would really be great for them if we would do. And if we don't have clarity about our own values, what's really important to us, then in my experience, we become very vulnerable to that. It's very easy to just live our lives being pushed in all these different directions by all these different people and influences and all that.
Absolutely.
So I don't think it's really permanent. And it is really exciting to see people when they do the values work. And we have kind of a unique approach that we're taking to the values work that kind of gives people a fresh start. It's interesting because when I often get into the conversation about how important values are, and people are like, oh yeah, values are really important. And then I say, well, most people can't articulate their values. And then they get this like guilty look on their face, like, oh no, he's going to ask me what my values are, and I'm not going to be able to tell him. But then I say, well, we have this way of articulating values that divides values into two different categories, and it's creating these great results, and people are really excited. So it kind of lets them off the hook. Like, well, nobody told me that. Of course I don't know my values. Nobody told me about the
Right.
two categories thing.
Right. And it's absolutely essential. I mean, I've seen it going through, some good times and some very hard, lonely times when I can just access that inside of myself. It keeps my purpose fired up, right? Because without that, if I didn't have that value, then why do anything, right? But the purpose of helping other people with it. And your work suggests aligning our core values, which leads to extraordinary outcomes. So I bet you got a really cool transformational story or someone that experienced a breakthrough through it, clarifying their values, right?
Well, actually, I'd love to share my own story because it's like 10 years ago. I used to work with Jack Canfield, and I had the opportunity to be around and work with and learn from some truly amazing people. And in the midst of all that, I was looking at values work, and ironically, values work is kind of connected to Jack's work, but it's not like there's not like really focused on values work. So, but I was seeing values work and again, recognizing how important it was, but I couldn't, it was like slippery. I couldn't like get my hands around it. I couldn't create a result that was usable, that I felt like I could really remember it and I could apply it and it would really make a difference for me on an ongoing basis. Because the two categories of values that I use are called priorities and ways of being. So the priorities are like what's important to us, the things, the areas of our life that are important to us, the things we put our time and attention on. And then the ways of being are the qualities and characteristics, like how we want to show up in the world. And all the values work, in my experience, was putting both those things in the same basket. So, my family and my relationships with my children is a priority for me. It's very important. And showing up in the world and being kind and caring is also very important. But they're two different things. In my experience, they're two very different things. And for me, there was an experience of confusion when those got put together. But as soon as I separated them, I ended up with two lists, which you would think would make it more confusing, but it actually made it less confusing because I could look at my priorities and say, this is what I've declared is most important to me. And I could look at my calendar and say, am I putting my time and attention on those things? Or not? And it's a yes or no question, right? It's very simple. Mm-hmm. And if I'm not, I can find ways to get more of my time and attention on the things that I have declared to be more important. And it makes it easier to say no to the other things and turn off the television and stop listening to the people you don't want to hear from anymore and whatever. And then the ways of being is the same thing. I say I want to show up in the world as a kind and caring person. I can look at my interactions today. Here I am on a call with you, and I'm going to a concert tonight with someone. Am I being kind and caring in those interactions and relationships, both personally and professionally? And again, the answer is either yes or no. So the two lists for me made it very easy to remember and actually apply, like make a difference on an ongoing basis. So you would think at that time I had probably been doing coaching and consulting work for 10 years or more. And you would think when I had a really great idea like that, I would share it with other people right away. But it really wasn't until about 5 years later when I was working on a different project and we had to bring in a values connection. And I said, oh, I have this way of doing it. And we started sharing it with more people. And the response was amazing. It was really great. And I was like, what was I waiting for? I've been sitting here with this thing that people need for 5 years. Maybe I should have shared it sooner.
Right. It's the perfect timing thing, right?
Yeah, it's the 20 years to create an overnight success thing, right?
Hey, I'm right with you. I'm right there.
That's
Absolutely.
The way it works. I wish it was different.
And you feel like a horse waiting for, to go the door to open so you can make your run. That's how I feel anyway. Yeah. Well, you got a gift, and it is a gift. I mean, I actually, that's how I, prioritize things, right? And the way you articulate it is so cool. This world of the obsessed with the quick fixes and, and how does the value-based approach offer a more sustainable path to both inner peace, right? And financial abundance?
Yeah. Well, I think, and you used the word purpose earlier, and let's definitely get to the connection to financial abundance, because it's really impossible, especially in the world we live in, to have this conversation about values without bringing money in, because we live in a world where one of those things that we get bombarded with is how important money is. You need more money. You have to have more money, and there's never enough money and all. And it's really stressful. Like, it's really hard. I mean, but when people start doing values work and start looking at the connection between money and values, they start to see that, yeah, in the world we live in, money is important. It's good to have your rent paid. It's good to have food in the refrigerator. It's good to be able to take your family on a vacation and all that. But the money itself, the actual money, isn't even a real thing. No. It's only important. It's only significant in the context of what we can do with it, what it means to us, what opportunities it creates for us. And that's where you're different than I am, and I'm different from everyone else. Like, it's very, very personal. And to think that people could make those decisions and really stay in alignment and create experiences and results that really work for them with the money that they have, and know when to say, okay, that's enough, that's plenty, and I'm going to focus on really living my life fully rather than just trying to make more money. I ask people, like, how can you do that if you don't know your values? Like, what criteria are going to use to measure what to do with the money, what the money means, when is it enough, all those kinds of things. But when you really have values clarity, I don't know if I'd say those questions become easy, but they become a lot simpler. Like I don't need 4 more houses, you know. I have a beautiful home. I love where I live, you know, I'm
Right.
good.
Yeah.
So I don't want to kill myself trying to get 3 more houses so I can keep up with the Joneses or what have you.
Exactly. And because money is just energy and just buys memories, really,
Mm-hmm.
that when you articulate the values like you're talking about, that's like the map, because like you look up, really the reality is you don't have a trailer behind the hearse, you know, the old saying, right? You're not taking it with you. Sorry. Really is the kindness.
There's no other way out. Like
No other way out. Right. And so your values and how, and I really see at this time in my life, the smallest of things, like I'm in a constant life review, I think now, instead of, waiting for something in the future. It's like a consciousness that happens of, you were a little nasty with that technical support guy because you got so impatient. It hits me a lot harder of, I'm actually feeling what the other people are feeling, and the value of being kind, like you say, goes up in the priority. And then the value of, well, is it more important that I got to do this another call, or maybe I need to do a little exercise and walk outside or be with my family, those kinds of things. And many people right now, especially as this world is shifting, they're feeling trapped in this with financial obligations. Just, what is it? 70% of people right now are living paycheck to paycheck. Ones that even make $100,000.
Mm-hmm.
So
we both live in California. So like,
yeah. Low. And that's why my show's Money 911, because people, they don't even take the time out to learn about safe money. You go to school, learn how to make money, get out of school. What do? You go make money and give it to some guy to gamble. And when you and then the people start their retirement plan at 60, it is because nobody's taught. Nobody, and this value should be a part of what I call financial education. And
well, you and I both operate in realms where people aren't taught, because people aren't taught those fundamentals about money that you deal with every single day. And they're also not taught about their values. And I said, well, like I said, everybody knows values are important, but people, I've not yet been able to find a study of how few people actually can articulate their values, but just kind of from my man on the street kind of interviews that I've been doing for the last several years, it's very rare. I met a woman at a party not too long ago. It was actually Jack's birthday party. And I was talking about this work with values, and she said, oh, my highest values are boom, 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 boom. She knew exactly. And I was like, do you know how rare that is? Like, I'm in that conversation all the time.
Yeah.
And it is so rare that somebody does that, because why would they? It's not taught in schools.
Mm-hmm.
Most parents don't have the wherewithal. I mean, I was working with Jack Canfield while my kids grew up, so I had what I call an unfair advantage. They got all sorts of weird lessons that most kids don't get.
Right.
But it had a really positive impact on them.
Yeah.
And I'm very, very grateful to Jack and other people I was working with at that time that my kids had a very different experience growing up than they would have if I'd been just working and trying to make money and all that kind of stuff.
What a gift. Now that's a real blessing. And, your work spans from boardrooms to personal coaching. And so you're already talking about, but what is one of the most transformational from either your kids or the boardroom, when the organization or the person aligns their financial goals, right, with their core values? That seems to be the issue a little bit.
Yeah. Well, one of my favorite stories is actually from fairly recently. It's just in the past year. I was doing some work with a construction company, and doing this personal development, creating cultures and working with leaders and forward thinking and all these things. sometimes when I'm working with a company like that, I go, okay, I hope it works, because these are like hard hat guys,
Right.
like they're out there, in the yard, and this company actually recycles concrete. So it's not the most glamorous company. But I had been working with their CEO, and he was a really great guy. And then I was telling him about this values work, and I came in and did a values session with his leadership team. And I remember driving to the venue where I was going to be doing it, going, okay, if it works here, it's going to work anywhere.
Right.
And we went in, and we ended up in this like incredibly engaging conversation, because one of the questions we asked when we're looking at priorities in an organizational context, it's not so much what is important to you. Like if I was working with you as an individual, that's a question that we would start with. What is important to you? Let's look at all the different things that are important to you and then try and narrow it down. And we do that as an intellectual exercise. We try and do like visualization type work to really tap into the heart energy and tap into all the different learning styles. But the question we asked with this organization was what do you do? Like, what do you do here? What are the most important things you do here? And they all looked at me like I was nuts. They said, well, we recycle concrete. I said, okay, we'll put it on the board. What else do you do? And they looked at each other like, who is this guy? Like, what's going on? Like, well, what else? That's not the only thing you do here. What else do you do here? And somebody raised their hand and said, well, we create opportunities for our team. Like it's really important for us to create like a career path for our team. Okay, perfect. And somebody else said, oh, well, we do research and development. Like we're always looking for the latest and greatest. Oh, great. We put that on the list. So we ended up creating this whole long list of these things that they do. And you could just feel the energy in the room. And again, these are hard hat guys. These are not, personal development gurus who are spending a week in Cabo at a workshop. They were taking a half day off from being on the yard, and they were in this hotel room. But it was so engaging and it was so exciting. And you could just tell it took them from this view, like we recycle concrete. And they went, oh, but wait, look at all these other things we do. And then we narrowed it down to the most important things that they do. It was not just one, but there were like 5 or 6 things on the list. And they left after just a half a day working with them. They left with a level of like excitement and engagement and feeling like this work that they were doing, recycling concrete, had a whole different level, a whole different meaning to them.
That's nice. Yeah.
So,
Wow. Because it it just changes. It's like putting on another pair of glasses. So that that heart to heart, I want to, it's just a little bit out of the box. So these people, I just do concrete, and all of a sudden they see what they're really doing, and then they feel better about themselves. So not, doesn't it affects so many things. It affects all their relationships, let alone their money. So, if you had a heart to heart conversation with your future self, just say, 10 years from now or whatever, what kind of advice or insights would you share?
well, then I'm thinking back to when I first read Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People book, and he talks about he who is good with a hammer thinks everything is a nail, right? So I have this lens around this values work that is so like I'm so zeroed in on that conversation. And I do think though, looking ahead and kind of talking to my future self, like the advice I would give would be to keep this values work in front of you, like keep it in the foreground and really focus on putting your time and attention on the things that are most important to you rather than getting pulled off in these other directions that other people and other entities and whatever kind of might want me to do. That might be good for them, but ultimately isn't really the most important thing to me. And I really feel like whatever it is, 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road or more, the better job I can do of staying clear about what my highest values are and showing up that way and putting my time and attention on those things, the more likely I'm going to get to a place in, again, 5 years, 10 years, and say, oh, yeah, this is where I want to be. This is the kind of results that I want to be getting. This is the kind of experiences that I want to be having. Versus again letting it go into a shelf or a drawer or somewhere and trying to find it later. The other thing that comes to mind for me is, I'm in this conversation every single day. I'm deeply immersed in this values work. You would think I would have my values figured out by now, right?
Right.
But as I'm thinking about like the next 5 or 10 years, I know even though I wrote a book about values, even though I'm working with other people about their values, I know my values are going to continue to change and evolve. So paying attention to that and allowing that to happen, because I mean, like, look back all the way to high school. Are my values different now than they were? Oh my God, they're not even close, right? So
Right.
in another 10 years, there will be, who knows, maybe I'll be a grandparent or maybe I'll be retired or whatever. So what is important to me, what is most important to me will potentially change. And that's okay. That's called living your life.
Right. And allowing it to change, not being attached, is because like I've got, you get so this is the way that it is, but
Mm-hmm.
it does change. And this kind of morphs into a little different, but the unique gift and the perspective that the world desperately needs right now is exactly what you're talking about, right? I would think.
Yeah, I mean, and again, the Stephen Covey thing, I see it everywhere. I can't not see it now. But if you look at politics or you look at just all
Right.
the discourse that's out there
Yep.
and the conversations on social media and the anonymity and I can say whatever I want or whatever, people are not in those conversations from a place of one being really grounded in their own values or two really caring and being curious about what someone else's values are. I think you and I are kind of unique in the sense, I know the organization that we met through is basically a values-driven organization. It's focused on business and career and creating success,
Right.
but but it's also really a group of really caring, fun, engaging people.
Right.
And so if all I care about is making money and making, I'm not going to really be comfortable there for very long.
Yep.
So it was a unique environment, and I was really attracted to it for that reason
Yeah.
because all the other discourse is it's exhausting, and it's stressful and it creates
Sure.
anxiety,
Yes.
which is again not like is that on my list of ways of being like my most important qualities and characteristics. What I really want is more stress and
Right.
anxiety and overwhelm. The more of that I can have, no,
Absolutely.
I want to move away from that.
Yes. Yeah. I think I went through decades of that in lots of groups and oh, that's what it is. And when the people were about, I mean, it's very rare you find people that really care about each other. And even if you're not in a group that does that or a community or whatever, you have to do it to yourself too,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah,
be kind to yourself and putting everything in its priority. It is a lesson of life. There's schoolroom earth. That's what I think it's about. Learning to love. That's it. That's the lesson. I mean,
yeah.
it seems so simple, but children are supposed to do it. But it's so hard. And
Yeah. Part of the work I remember doing with Jack that was so powerful, and I think it connects to this whole conversation about values and what's real, not just what's important to you, because you ask people what's important to them. Well, my car and my house and my job and whatever. But
right.
if you keep asking and you really go deep, like what's really, really, really important
Yeah.
to you, I think you really hit on something there where when I ask that question and really go deep, like who am I? Like what is really in there? It's
Right.
unconditional love. Like the more I can be in relationships and in conversations and running my life and running my business from a place of trying to be unconditionally loving, things work pretty well and magic periodically happens.
That's
Stuff
it.
hits the fan sometimes too, because that's called life.
Yeah.
But if we're coming from that place, it really does fundamentally change the experience and again the results.
Mhm.
And it's very different than being in that experience that I see so many people in and they don't know how to get out of it and they feel trapped
Right.
of the overwhelm and the stress and the not enough and all of that
Never
it's
enough.
just like a weight on your shoulders
Yeah.
and
Exactly.
you know
I have a song I wrote called The Magical Ways of Love, but it was words as I sang it before. And then as I'm, going through the different decades and watching family, right, and friends transition, cross over, there's a reality check that comes in there like, okay, wake up here. And that's why my whole perspective, my values, it got really simple. It's gotten
yeah
really, the older I get, the more simple it is like being loving, being kind, being caring. and integrating that inside of the business. Where,
Which is absolutely possible. People think it's a conflict.
yes.
We actually have a conversation around our work about borrowing values,
Mhm.
because some of my highest values on the ways of being side are kind and caring and calm and peaceful. And you know what? Sometimes business isn't like that. And I sometimes, when I'm really focused on business, when I really have a project that's super important, I really want to be rigorous and diligent, I will borrow values like strong and focused and disciplined, which is not necessarily like the energy I want to bring to my whole life all the time, but it's also not in conflict. Like I can be really focused and really strong and really on purpose and still be really caring and kind and on some level calm and peaceful. That's what focus really is. I'm
Right.
present and
Right.
calm and peaceful. But
Yeah.
you know what? I got stuff to do, right? Like I
Right.
got get in the
Yeah.
game.
Yeah. And this is cool because we actually morphed into the question that I was going to ask you, which the radical idea of the intersection of values and wealth to the
Mhm.
listeners. And so, but if you did, let's just say you imparted one idea for everybody's listening, how they can weave the values in with the wealth of wisdom and the wisdom of wealth, or the real thing. What would
Mhm.
you tell them?
Well, if I'm understanding your question correctly, you're going beyond wealth as just a monetary term.
That's right.
And
Absolutely.
and and I believe when people do the values work, they really create their own personal definition of what that means.
Right.
So for me, if my relationships with my children are not what I would want them to be, and that's the number one thing on my list of priorities in my relationships with my amazing children, if that's not where I want to be, then I'm not experiencing that kind of wealth that you're talking about. And my health and well-being is on that list as well. So if I'm letting my health go, I'm not wealthy in that deeper sense
Right.
that you're talking about. And
Uh,
there is like, my business and my career are on that list as well. And one of the ways of measuring success is how much money I'm making. Like revenue generated. If you're running a business, like that's, you're trying to save for retirement, like how much money is in the account, all those kinds of things. But the reason behind it, like we talk about trying to help people run a company that's profitable and productive and all that, but it's also a company that people love to work for and a company that people love to do business with, like Patagonia or Ben and Jerry's or something like that. Like
yeah.
people, they learn about these companies and are like, oh my God, I want to give them my money. Like they're so cool. I love them so much. Like I love the way they do their business. I love what they stand for.
Yeah.
And like to think about the experience of being in business like that versus trying to compete on price or trying to pay your people as little as possible, whatever. Like, but if you've created a company where people love to work there because their values are aligned with the company's values and they just feel like my oldest daughter works for a company it's actually a nonprofit, I guess, but it's an organization that's doing medical research up in Seattle. And she's brilliant. She's a math PhD and she's doing data science. She's doing work I can't even begin to explain it to you. But she's doing it in the context of helping AIDS vaccine research.
Mm.
So she knows, like she wants to make a difference. She wants to do her work. She wants to, get paid well. She wants to make her house payment, all that stuff. But she, most days, I think, bounces out of bed feeling really good about the fact that she's doing important work. And that's partially due to the fact that she used to work for Microsoft and her data science work was related to the supply chain for Microsoft. And I think she was waking up in the morning going, what am
Mm.
I doing? Like, it's a good company. They were taking really good care of her. They really wanted her to stay. But, the supply chain at Microsoft versus AIDS vaccines, I don't know. One feels a little more exciting than the other. And she knows that. Like, and again, she's grown up in a world where she knows like to ask those questions. She pays attention to those things. Like what is not only how much money am I making, but what kind of experience am I having? Like how does it feel?
Right.
And the truth is, and she's a good example of this, you can have both. I think she did take a pay cut to move from Microsoft to this
Sure.
called the Fred Hutchinson Institute.
Hmm.
Um, but she still does fine. She does
Right.
really well because
They're
she's
real
worked hard.
fine.
Yeah.
Daddy taught her right,
But not the math thing. I tell people that
not the
must skip
math.
generations or something. I don't know where that came from, but
Well, the real value
yeah.
that you take with you, and she's doing, and that's health is wealth, because when you're doing the things that empower you, that are abundant, it's an abundance that gives you, makes your heart feel better, right? It
Yeah.
really, so connected. And
Yeah,
it's
for
so
sure.
fun to talk to you. We could go on. I thought I was going to have a lot shorter show, but we could go on and on here. We'll have to do it
I
again,
know you get public
right?
speakers on, they start talking, what are you going to do?
We go, go, go. Well, that's okay. We've got a lot of good things to share. So we'll just do it again. But in the meantime, tell everybody again, you've got a coaching. Tell them a little bit about how to contact you and what it is you've got.
Yeah, I mean, if people are intrigued by this conversation and maybe they're one of those people who knows that values are important and is on that long list of people who have never been able to really articulate their values, maybe they're curious about this approach that we're taking. If you go to valuesbasedlife.com, there's any number of ways you can engage with us. All starting with the book that I wrote, Living a Values-Based Life, all the way up to, we work with organizations to do full-blown values discovery and implementation programs. So, and kind of everything in between. So, you can probably tell I'm very excited and very committed to this
Yeah.
work. I love what I'm doing. I can see the difference it's making in people's lives. One of the things on the website is a button to just get on my calendar. And we're not so big yet. We might be someday, but we're not so big yet that I can't just get on the phone with people who hear about me on a podcast like this and want to just talk to me about where they're at in this whole journey and get some guidance about kind of
Nice.
where to
Nice.
start and what would be the best kind of next step for them. So
That's
that's another thing that people can
right.
do.
That's a value right there. Better get it.
And I love doing it. I mean,
Yeah.
again, I'm just living to be in these conversations.
Yeah.
I've had to do a
Yes.
lot of sales and marketing stuff lately, and I'm like, I don't want to do that. I want to actually be in the I want to be doing
Did
the
your
work.
time already. Right.
Yes.
Right. Just as a closing thought, if you had to choose a personal motto or mantra or your guide to your decisions or actions, what would that be?
Oh, that's such a great question because it goes back there. There's this little like open loop in this conversation to me because you talked about purpose early on, and we never really touched on that. And it's a huge thing for me because I think people really want to live a life where they feel like they have purpose, like they're on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And previous to this values focus, all my branding in my organization was around a concept called excellent decisions, which was about making decisions based on vision and values rather than all the external stress and pressure that we're under. And what this values work has really zeroed me in on is that the values come first. Like if you have a vision, but it's not aligned with your values, chances are it's not going to go that great. Like you're not going to end up somewhere where you really want to be.
Right.
But if you do have that clarity of your values, what's really important to you, and you create a vision that is in alignment with those values, I believe it's like math, like a much more basic kind of math than my daughter does. But like if you have clarity of your values, plus you have a compelling vision of what you want to create in the world, who you want to be in the world, that is in alignment with those values, to me, that is the definition of purpose. So for me, as like a motto or what I would want to share with people is to just really keep that in the foreground. Like, do I have both? Do I have the clarity of values and a compelling vision that I know is in alignment with that? Like, even as I'm saying it, I can just feel the power of that sense of purpose that comes from that.
Yeah.
And the sense, okay, that is the direction I want to go. That is the place I want to shoot for.
It's atomic. It's like,
yeah, there's an energy around
right?
it.
The two things coming, the values and both coming together. And that is atomic. It causes a nuclear reaction. And I have another song I wrote called The Power of Purpose, doing good while you're doing well. So you can be blessed while you're helping people. It doesn't have to be but there is a synergy when those things, what you're talking about, that's why I'm so excited about our conversation. When they come together, it is nuclear and it changes, bam, it gives you the energy to fulfill the dream.
You can feel it physiologically for
Right.
sure. And I love your references to music. Like, to me, that's such a great, like, I don't know kind of what values work you have or haven't done. And hopefully you and I connecting has got you thinking about it more and all that. But at some point, it seems to me that you got really clear that music is something that's really important to you. And you didn't, so many people who that is the case, they let it go to the wayside because they're busy working on their career or their job or whatever. But you've kept that,
it
in
was
the
my
foreground.
heart. It was my heart is singing praises to God. I'll just say that. Okay. That's my, so when I was a little kid, I was blessed with downloading a lot of songs. I'm actually still on a record label in Nashville, but I got to a certain point. I had a couple number one songs, a couple of CDs that were put in the Grammys. But I got to this point, Robert, where it was like, I hit a ceiling when I was in Nashville. It was like, okay, number one, da-da. And it was like, hey, wait a minute. It's not about me. And that's what hit me. The spirit hit me and said, it's not about you, because it was too much about me. It was like, look at me sing and that. It was a little bit about me and not getting, okay, where did the song come from? Right. And that connection with Almighty God and me and values and purpose. So when I shifted, I was like, here I am in the healthy money conversation. Why? Because I'm in the prayer. What is the greatest good that I could? What's the best way with the time that I have left, which is less than what I had before? You know what I mean? Like I'm not halfway through anymore. Even though I'm going to live to 120, it's all such an illusion.
I mean, I don't know.
It's all changing. Time is the illusion, but the purpose, the power of purpose. I'll have to send you that song, but it's at the tag. It's actually the tag ending of these shows. A little bit of that song is in here too. But anyway.
Well, and that ego that you're talking about, I love that about, with the music and, look at me and I'm a star and I'm number one, whatever.
I know.
It's kind of like the money conversation we're having, right? Like we think that's important. We think that's really going to create, but when it's cool. There's nothing wrong with it. Congratulations. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't create that same kind of like, what the right word is, like that sense of really making a difference in someone else's life and a contribution. And those are the things that come up when we really do the deep values work. That's
the real bank. That connection of how you've changed that life and helped that person, whatever it was, that's the bank. That's your vault you take with you, your heart, right? Your heart vault. We're having too much fun.
I know. We got to stop
now. All right. We shall return. All right, Robert. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. I'm so glad I was able to join you.
Me too. Thank you for joining us today on Money 911. Robert, your insights into the importance of aligning vision and values have truly inspired us to reflect on our own paths. Remember, listeners, that success is not just about financial gains. It's about creating a life that resonates with your deepest values and aspirations. We encourage you to pick up Robert's book, Living a Value-Based Life, to further explore this transformative journey. Until next time, may you find clarity in your values, strength in your vision, and peace of mind in your pursuits. Stay inspired and keep thriving. There's so much to learn about healthy money. I hope today's discussion brings you one step closer to securing and protecting your future. So you can get started on the right foot, go to meetwithkrismiller.com and schedule your free financial fitness strategy session. Thank you for listening. And please subscribe to Money 911 so you don't miss our next episode, which includes health, wealth, and peace of mind.